So we've sold 4 million tacos in 10 years. That is about 63 miles tall. So if you stack them up,
Wow.
63 miles.
Houston, we have tacos.
Welcome to Restaurant 365 Presents Behind the Numbers, a show where we talk to owners and operators, chefs to CFOs, and everybody in between about what makes a successful restaurant tick. Before we get started, just a quick reminder, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show wherever you're watching. And if you got an extra minute, please consider leaving us a review. Helps us continue to bring you all of these incredible guests and amazing conversations while we continue to grow and support this amazing, incredible restaurant community. And with that, I'm your host, Rich Sweeney.
And I'm Marc Cohen here, and we're here with Ramon Soriano, the founder and CEO of Houston's La Calle Tacos and Cantina. Ramon, you've got an amazing story, and we're very excited to dig into it. But before we get too far, why don't you give us a quick intro of who you are, what you do, and what your brand is all about?
Absolutely. Thanks for the invitation. I'm really flattered to be here. So, Ramon Soriano, La Calle Tacos, and La Diabla Retro Bar. My company started 10 years ago. I've been in this business for a long time. And 10 years ago, I decided to open my own. And it's been a great story since then.
Well, we're thrilled you're here. And with that, let's get into it. Let's dig in. Welcome to Behind the Numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't say, let's talk about it. I have
that
to
wasn't
get
even a
one.
minute. That wasn't even.
It was
a minute.
perfect.
I'm trying to do it faster and faster every time.
This is the weird thing. It's the first time someone uses that pun with me.
I am terrible about doing it. I'll probably do it at least 10 or 12 dozen more times.
Don't encourage him.
All right. I'll knock it off. So Ramon, we always like to start with kind of a big question. So what do you think, what's the most important thing that you do in your restaurants day to day, week to week, whatever you think is the most important thing that every owner, operator, everyone in the business should be doing or thinking about all the time? Well,
what I do, and it goes down to the mission of the company. The mission of my company is to make the guest fall in love, right? In my position, what I do is I provide all of the administration to the operation side. So my job and what I do every day is make sure that my guests are the restaurant operations fall in love with everything they have, the services, their suppliers, their systems. Everything needs to be perfect so that they fall in love. And at the same time, their major responsibility in operations, the COO's responsibility is to make sure that the managers are falling in love with the services that we provide them. Because it all comes down to the last person that's on the line, which usually the 18-year-old, sometimes not very experienced employee. And that's the most important person in the whole organization, because those are the people that take care of the guests. Right. Mm-hmm. So everyone from myself to the manager, general manager, everyone needs to make sure that team member is in love with the company, with the procedures, with their tools, with everything they have, so that they can make their guests finally fall in love. Right. So I think that's and if I can answer the question again with one phrase, just remove obstacles. Right.
I like that.
Perfect.
Remove obstacles.
Yes, it's always been my mantra. Don't make it hard for me to spend money.
Exactly.
I'm here to spend my money. Don't make it difficult, right? Mm-hmm. But I love that your answer, though, your first answer was love.
Mm-hmm.
Love.
Yeah.
Fall in love with it.
Yeah. And with a very clear, short statement mission, right? I work for so many companies that they have like 8 sentence long mission that not even the CEO or the founder can repeat, right? So
the paragraph that just goes on and on. By the time you're done, you're like, wait, what are we talking about?
Right. Exactly.
Keep it simple.
Exactly.
And so this has served you well. How many locations do you have now?
So we have 2 La Calles. We're getting ready to open the third one, and we have 1 La Diabla. La Diabla is right now it's a nightclub. It only operates Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It is located in an extremely good area for bar hopping that is now turning into a day area, right? So we're turning it into a restaurant. We're rebranding it a little bit. We'll keep the night fund, we'll keep it like music and whatever, but we'll be doing, and since it's around the corner from one of our locations, we're going to create an elevated taco. So it'll be, you know, more elevated, more ribeye taco with handmade tortilla and, you know, different kinds of, because like La Calle is street food, you know, authentic, you know, simple, onion, cilantro, lime, and let's go kind of food.
Now, if you need anybody to come and be a taste tester, I'm always down to taco.
Anytime.
We love tacos. Who doesn't love
Everyone
tacos?
does. Yeah.
It's not a sandwich, by the way. The taco is not a sandwich. Don't ever miscategorize it.
Can I scream in on that? It's not a sandwich. It's not a hamburger. And this is the beauty out of it. When you have tacos, you have like, we serve 5 tacos on a plate, and they can all be different, you know, pastor, carnitas, and suadero. They're all different. So the thing is that with one meal, you have 5 experiences, right? Mm-hmm. When you're eating a burger with one meal, it's just one experience. If you didn't like it, you know, you're done. That's it. So that's another beauty about
it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
I like it. And how many tacos have you sold since you opened? I know you looked this up in Restaurant 365.
Of course, that's my tool for it. So we've sold 4 million tacos.
That's so a lot of journeys.
in 10 years. And I brought, I know this is numbers, you know, conversation, and I pulled some numbers out, some interesting numbers. So those 4 million tacos, those are 750 tons of tacos, 750 tons.
Wow.
I ChatGPT this, right? And this second one kind of disappointed me. So if the taco is 1 inch thick, you can stack 4 million inches. That's I didn't need ChatGPT to tell me that, right? This another one. Yeah. That is about 63 miles tall. So if you stack them up, 63 miles, right?
6 stories. Okay. 63
miles.
Not feet.
Right. Miles.
Yikes.
Right. About 15.9 acres. Right. If you line them up, it would be 315 miles. If you line them up, not the thickness, right? It said, ChatGPT said 12.7 million Big Macs wide. That doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right.
It's not, no, we're not, that's a different journey.
Yes, exactly.
Totally different unit of measure.
Yeah, exactly. So far enough that the first taco, I love this one. This is my favorite. It's far enough that the first taco would be stale by the time you get to the last taco, right? And we don't want that. So you have to go like eating them, right?
Eat quickly.
Exactly.
Wow, you understood the assignment.
This is no longer behind the numbers. This is taco talk.
That's
all this is now. I'm here for
last one, I promise. So my first goal, my short-term goal is to be able to line them up to get to Mexico City, because that's where our food's from. Line up to Mexico City, we're halfway there right now.
Halfway, okay.
Halfway there.
I like that.
And
we'll have to have you back on when you hit that goal.
Yeah, and then the next goal will be to cross America with tacos.
Okay.
I need 35 million tacos.
Yeah, that's a lot of tacos.
All right. I think the first milestone one, that just needs to be an on-site. Like, we just need to be in Mexico City recording the podcast there.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
I don't know if we have the budget to do that, but I mean, we could try it.
Right.
We'll figure it out. So, Ramon, how did La Calle start? Like, how did you get in? You said you've been in this business your whole life. Is this, often we talk to people in the restaurant industry, you know, we talk about it being in our blood a little bit. I don't think you really choose this. It chooses you. So how did you end up in this crazy industry?
Well, my father used to own restaurants. His father used to own restaurants. So I'm like 3rd generation restaurateur. My daughter just finished cum laude on hospitality.
Congrats.
So she'll be the 4th generation, hopefully. So very proud. So that's how I started. When I was like, I never had like a home meal. We would always be at the restaurant, and I would hang out in the restaurant since I remember. My first job was when I was not in my my dad's restaurant. But he got me a job when I was 9 years old. I have a great picture in my paycheck. My first paycheck, I still have it. 9 years old, yeah. So that was delivering burgers. So anyway, I've been in this my whole life. In Mexico, my last job in Mexico was I was a regional manager for Burger King before I came to the US. So now I used to be selling burgers in Mexico, and now I sell tacos in the US. So it's a great trade-off.
If only ChatGPT would have had you equate the tacos with Whoppers instead of Big Macs.
Right, there you go.
That would have been a nice full circle moment.
There you go. Right. So I mean, I've been in this my whole life. I've never done anything else. I wouldn't know what to do. I've never worked in an office, right? I've always been in restaurants and operations. So I love this.
So you had the benefit of sort of learning in a corporate environment, it sounds like, versus probably your father, who just probably had to figure it out from day one. You know, you were brought up in that sort of corporate scene.
Yeah.
Did you do any corporate work in the U.S. as well? When you first, what was your first U.S.
My
job?
first U.S. was for a local. Well, they had a local chain in California. They hired me to go and manage the chain, the operations. That was my first job. That is where the vision for La Calle came out. 20 years. That's this 18 years ago. The first day I was working in that place, that's when I realized that I wanted to do La Calle and what I was going to do. It only took me 18 years to do it, right?
But 18 years in one day on this new job, and you went, wait a second.
Exactly. And interesting because the first thing I did is I pulled the PMix. And I realized pulling the PMix, this El Gallo Giro, it's a great brand, huge operation. 7,000 square foot locations, and they have taqueria, torteria, fruteria, panaderia, pasteleria. It's huge, and everything's going on over here. And I'm looking at this crazy operation, crazy. And I opened the PMix and I realized that 80% of their sales came out of the tacos, the tortas, and the aguas frescas. And that's where I said, like, this is it. Let's remove everything else and let's do this. But then I got hired because, the salary that I got offered from Mexico to California was like, I thought I was going to be a millionaire, but I was living in LA and I was below poverty,
Yes.
So then I then went to work for TJ Fridays, then for Joe Scratch Shack, and then Front Burner with the Ojos Locos brand. Yeah. So I did a lot of the corporate stuff, which was phenomenal learning experience.
When you were doing all of that, did you always know that you wanted to own your own place, or was it kind of like because for me it was like growing up in it? I watched like my mom and my stepdad own a place. My dad was a restaurant manager on like the corporate side of things. Like I grew up in it and I swore it off. Right. Because it's in the DNA. You just keep getting pulled back into it. So like, did you always know that you wanted to do it, or was it more of like an idea that you were just kind of waiting for like the right light bulb moment to kind of really trigger it for you?
Since my very first job, I always knew that I wanted to get to this place, always. And I always took that every job I had, I always took it as a learning, as a school.
Yeah.
Right. It took me long because I was doing well, and the worst thing that can happen to you is to be doing well, because then it doesn't push you.
Get a little comfortable, right. Sure. Yeah.
But one mentor in one meeting, that this is one of the things that tipped me to just do it. He said he was observing. And he said, "You're a student, right?" And I'm like, very proud. Yeah. I'm a student. And he tells me, feeling sober, and he says, "Stop studying, start doing." Right? And so I quit the company. But a few months after that, I quit the company. So I don't know what this.
For everybody, like, how do you open a restaurant? What happens next? How did you open your first restaurant? How does that happen?
As I said, I had the plan, the idea many years ago, and I was never able to put it down in paper. I didn't have a mindset. I started like several times and then quit, and until I worked for Front Burner and something that they do very, very well. That's where I learned the brand. What they do is they everything is around the brand DNA. Everything, every decision, everything, So once I learned their brand DNA and how they use it and how it's not just like one poster on the wall, how they really make decisions and how they really turn into everything into that. That's when I was able to put my business plan together in literally in weeks. What I wasn't able to do in 18 years, I did it in weeks.
Just by focusing on that one key piece. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's that idea of like, knowing when you have that really distinct point of view and you think about everything from that angle, right? Like this is the brand. Every decision needs to be leaning towards that. Nothing kind of like, oh, this sounds like it would be cool to do. No, you really got to stay focused. And once you have that, I think it really can help you drive forward.
It has.
Well,
it just has helped us stay on track. I'm and my business partner as well. We're very creative and whatever. So we always want to do stuff. And every time we come to this point, we just dial it back, open up the DNA. Does it fit in any of these points? If it doesn't fit, we just don't do it. We just abandon it immediately.
And that is still the driving. That is still the North Star. I love that. And so your first location, did you find an existing restaurant or did you do a build out? Like what was that original process like? Were you able to just get up and running quickly or no? No.
So I've had more than in total in my whole career, like more than 300 restaurants under my belt. I did like about 80 new store openings directly under my belt, 80 store openings. So I knew how to operate and I knew how to open restaurants. I just didn't know how to build them, right? I had zero experience on building them. So I took a second generation place. This is the only place that would rent to me because every place that I would call the real estate, they would laugh at me, literally laugh at me. New restaurant, new concept, restaurant with a new concept. No way. They didn't want to take me with a
first time owner. Yeah, of course.
No one wants to. Yeah. I'm to the day. I'm very appreciative to the landlord that actually gave me the opportunity. I presented. He was the only one that asked for the business plan. It was a really cool business plan. He saw it and he gave me this opportunity, and I'm very thankful for it. So it took me, I thought, and I had money because I opened it with a small loan from my mom and SBA and the last few pennies I had. And I thought I was going to reopen in 3 months.
And
9 months after, 9 months later. Yeah. So that's a part that I did not know that was going to happen, right?
I don't think people realize, like, this story you're telling, this is the genesis of most restaurants. I feel in the country, like of anywhere in the world. Like, this is how it starts. It's somebody with a dream and an idea that's super focused, determined, that thinks they're going to open in 3 months, actually opens in 9. But you were smart. So during that 9 months, you weren't just waiting for your restaurant to open. You started marketing this thing like immediately, right? So walk me through. That's super smart.
So
building a buzz early.
Yeah.
It was by luck. Honestly, it wasn't smart. It was by luck and by just like simple need, because not only I thought it was going to take me 3 months, every 2 weeks, I thought it was going to be 2 weeks, 2 weeks more, for 9 months, it wasn't always like, no, it's not 3 months, it's 9. Another story. I would be telling another story. So I would literally go to the site. I had a little table over there and a little, fold-up chair, and I would sit down. And I had already quit my job, right? So I had absolutely nothing to do other than sit in front of my computer and start figuring stuff out and start honing on marketing. So and at the same time, and it was like we're almost open, like all my posts and everything. We're almost open, in a few weeks. Like, stay tuned and whatever. So it created a lot of buzz around, right? By the day I opened, like, everyone was okay. Like, open already and craving
It's
it.
finally here.
Stop taco teasing us.
There's two good ones.
Have you done like a lot of marketing beforehand, or was this kind of like your first time like figuring it out, especially to like social media and figuring out how to get out there and then start building that following when you don't have a space for people to come into yet? How did you kind of navigate that?
I had zero experience in marketing. I always liked Facebook, and I was always on Facebook. And back then is when Facebook was it.
Yeah.
There wasn't that many, distractions as now. So we was all on Facebook and just sitting down, figuring out how do you boost it, how do you create the segment, the market, like just figuring it out. It was much simpler. I'm still a little bit involved in that side, but right now it's very, very complex. It didn't used to be like this.
Different landscape for sure. So you're still doing a lot of social media campaigns, but you're not driving that anymore. You've figured out. I probably need to hire somebody that understands the landscape now.
There was a point probably like 4 years ago that I was like, I don't understand it anymore. I can't do it because I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Right? It got so complex. So
you got bigger issues. You got bigger hills to climb anyways. So you open your first store, you've marketed it. Are you busy day one?
Yes.
Okay.
Because of that, I attribute this to two reasons. Everything that I just said was the first reason. And the second reason is, there's a food blogger, a food writer, local food writer that came in probably a week after I opened, and he's a big, very serious guy. Very serious. He walks in the restaurant. I was getting ready to leave, and I see him come in, right? And I'm like, oh my God! For 3 minutes I would have missed him. So he comes in. He doesn't say a word to me. And I'm just talking and the brand and this and whatever, and my story and
nervous.
Very, very, very nervous. I'm bringing all of the food out, and he takes one bite and puts it aside. A bite on a taco, puts it aside. A bite of a tostada, puts it aside. Doesn't say one, and I'm just rambling at this point, right? And after he took a bite of everything, he stands up, he gets close, and he says, "People are going to be excited about this." He walks out.
Oh, wow.
That night, he puts in, he sends me the link to the story he put on Culture Map. He puts it. He didn't take any notes. He captured everything I told him, right? All of my rambling, cleaned it out, and he captured everything. So something that I do every single time I'm in a restaurant since day one is I ask every single guest I can get close to. I ask them, is it your first time? And how did you know about this? How did you learn about, how did you find us? Right?
Smart.
And that week, at least 500 people, I'm not making this, at least 500 people came because they saw that. So
that's crazy.
Immediately it was like about something that used to be a thing back then when I opened was the Facebook check-ins, right? So people were checking in and creating more people to come in, and so that was the so I was very fortunate, very lucky that from day one it started creating. Another thing is that back then that's not the case now. Back then, there was no competition of a nice brand. There were tacos all over the place, right? Sure. All the time all over the place. Mostly on areas, the more dangerous the neighborhood, the better the taco is, So that was the case when I opened. And
the truck is, yeah.
Let's talk about tacos to die for. I mean,
there you go. Right. So, but there wasn't any, and not only in Houston, I lived in LA, in New Jersey, in Dallas, and I managed restaurants, and I never found. I always said either there's no market for it or no one has done it, right? So it turned out that nobody had done it. Right now, there are so many competition. There's so many very well placed street tacos. So the competition right now is much bigger than what it was back then.
So a little bit of DNA, a little bit of smarts, a whole lot of luck. Year one, here's the $1 million question. Did you make any money?
I did.
You did.
That never happens in the restaurants.
That never happens first year in a restaurant.
Yes.
And you weren't even using Restaurant 365.
I imagine that, right.
Imagine how much more money you could have made.
Imagine that. Yeah. Absolutely. I would have gone broke if I would have lost money. The day I opened,
right.
I was like, I would have been broke if I didn't.
So when, because I've spoken to you many times. You've joined us at our events. You've been on panels with us. You are a very tech forward operator. When did that bug hit you? When did you decide that I really need to double down on technology?
I think always. I've always loved it. I was always playing video games. I always had computers, and I tried to, I've always been into technology. It just entertains me a lot. So that's why.
What led you to, so Restaurant 365 you've been using for 5 years now, I want to say?
Every time we talk, I tell you 5 years, but we've known each other so I just checked. I just
must
checked.
be longer.
Yeah, I just checked, and 2019 was the first operation on 2019.
Oh, wow.
And what drove that decision? What made you seek that out?
I was using QuickBooks. And obviously, QuickBooks was very generic and not very restaurant oriented. So it didn't allow me to do a lot of the things that we do now with 365, But that, and also when I understood and I learned that with QuickBooks, I would have had to have two different logins and two different,
because now we've opened an additional store.
I was about to open the second one when I came with you guys. I came with you guys before I opened the second one because I was already building it. It took me 9 months as well. That one took longer because I opened right on COVID, so that one took longer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, so that's where I said I need to find a solution where I can have everything under one roof. There's just no way. And then I got referred by one of the managers that had used to work for me in one of the other companies. She told me about 365, and I learned about it, and I liked it. And
I was going to say, it's 2019. We don't have a marketing team. We're not on social media.
No.
Like, we're not doing any of the things you were way ahead of us already.
Word of
we
mouth.
didn't have any. So we were very much a word of mouth company. We'd go to trade shows, but like ultimately that's how people found us back then.
Yeah.
So restaurant managers would say, "Hey, I'm using this software. It's fantastic." Yeah.
That's how it came along.
I love it. That's awesome. And so, what were the immediate ROIs here? How did we move the needle for you? You were already making money. I assume we now help you make more money.
Yeah, absolutely. So
nobody ever gets mad about that part.
No.
Right, exactly. So I onboarded everything, all the accounting and the operations side, but I started with one of the partners on the accounting side. So I was really not involved in the accounting side at all. I didn't know that. I was almost scared of that module, right? And it looked different, and I'm like, okay, let me, So I honed in on the operations side, and I've always understood, with any system, garbage in, garbage out. So I've always understood the importance of having everything perfectly clear, configured, aligned, and I'm very methodic about that. So. And then COVID hit, and I was like agent zero almost. I got sick of COVID like right away when it came out. So again, I was like 3 weeks just locked in my house with no human contact, just my computer and 365 to work with. So I started, uploading the recipes and units of measure and understanding it and, configuring modules. And that's how I came, and I became pretty versed on it. And then sometimes after I'm not going to say that I got bored, but everything was kind of more or less aligned on the operations side. And I started picking my head into the accounting side. And then right now, I'm not working with a partner anymore. Right now, I manage it completely.
You run the whole show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which
nice. So now you're kind of in it all the time. I mean, I'm guessing able to see your numbers quickly, like kind of just make those proactive decisions in the moment.
Absolutely. Something I'm very, very proud about is like we're a very we don't have a big corporate. It's me and my business partner. There's no assistants. There's no bookkeepers. There's no there's nothing like that. We have a marketing person right now, but everything, all of the bills get paid. Everything gets done with just myself and my business partner for 3 restaurants and almost 4, right? So
and I would assume it relatively, easily with the solution, right? Like we've automated a lot of these processes for you, so you can run 4 restaurants with 2 people, because of that.
Yeah, very. I mean,
and prior to us, you weren't really doing inventory, right? It was just purchases, sales. That's my P&L. So to get dialed in on your inventory, what does that do to your margins?
Right now, well, there's the waste that we have it's nothing. Like we control our waste really well because we're tracking it. We're tracking our waste. We're tracking inventory. We have a really, really cool liquor inventory system where we have it dial it down to the ounce. It's very complete, So I never had that level of, the eyesight, and not only that, because one thing is being able to have all of the information, but I don't want managers doing that all day. I want my managers taking care of the guests, not doing counts and inventory and all of that. So that's what has allowed me to be able to produce good numbers. Right now at this point we close our record. We closed our month, our period. We closed it 5 days after. Everything done, everything banking, everything done 5 days after.
That's
right.
Doing
so,
it right. Yep.
So we're very proud of that, and it allows us to make better decisions all the time. Something that whenever price increases, and right now it's been more stable, but you remember a couple of years ago where, and we've been a little bit punished because we've always been the first ones to increase prices. Right?
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Because we're the first ones when realizing that this is happening because we have that data,
Exactly. And you've got the crystal ball that is Restaurant 365. Before everybody else.
But this is what happens in our advantage because we raise it because we know what's coming. When a lot of our competitors raise prices, they raise them now that they're already losing. So they raise prices more than what's necessary. If they wouldn't, now they have to make it up, right? So,
catch up.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we talk about, right? We don't want to be a system of record. We want to be a system of action, right? So that proactive approach to managing your business, I mean, that's the whole point of what we do. And when Ramon says he's got his liquor inventory down to the ounce, I'm not kidding. His AVT is down to the shot. So when he runs his AVT in Restaurant 365, he knows how many shots of tequila he's missing, which I thought, I loved it when you told me you were doing that. I was like, that's the way everybody should be doing it.
Yeah. Which tequila, and we can dial it down to the day if we want, So yes, that's created. And I mean, we've always, for example, before, we've always talked about, since I came to the States, at least, liquor cost is 18%, right? It has to, and that's it, right? We've never known why, right? Now with this, our liquor cost is 16%, right?
Right.
And we know why. So it's for a reason. We don't our managers bonus our liquor cost and other costs, but the bonus our liquor cost, they need to be 1.5 off variance, 1.5%.
That's allowed. That's what you're allowed.
That's what you're allowed.
1.5. Okay.
Right. So it's not whatever happens to prices, it doesn't matter. Right, your cost is not going to go up. Your goal is not going to go up or down, because you're looking at the variance. It's about efficiency. Right. Exactly.
Yep. I'm seeing that. That's more common.
Yeah.
Yeah, not about the cost of the product itself, kind of, instead it's just more of like how well are you managing, using and inventorying and purchasing that product instead. It's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because ultimately that's what the operators have control over. They don't have control over the price.
Exactly.
There's nothing they can do about that, but they can control the efficiency.
Yeah.
For sure. And one of the numbers I think we talked about, your margins, you were running like a 13%
Before
profit margin. And where are you now?
32% location.
That's wild.
That's
everybody that's listening is insanely jealous of you right now. 32% net profit.
Yes.
That is not a restaurant. That's a retail outlet. Our industry, if like you're doing 10%, you're crushing it. 32. That's very impressive.
That's incredible.
And it's a lot by controlling and understanding and seeing what's happening and having the information so accessible and so clean, because before it's like, okay, but I don't know what this is, this invoice hit here and I don't know why, and it would take ages to kind of track it down, and it's not the case anymore. Also, the brand, the one of the points of our DNA is simple, economical, and replicable, right? So the whole menu was created, and the whole line setup, the whole kitchen setup was created twice from scratch. I first created it thinking on what items do I serve that I can, a high volume on because it's a like Chipotle, you get to go through the line and get your food and pay. So there's a lot of items that I would love to have in my menu, but I don't, because they would stop the line. So what menus can sit on the well and long enough to, and then I tossed it completely. And then I created one for low volume. So, okay, what if there's no people in? What if there's no guests? What do I need to? What holds well on the well? What can what items will not create any waste, right? So because I couldn't afford to have to lose money when there's also our skeleton crew is 2 people. And we can hit on every single point of the service, a circle of service, with only 2 people, 1 bartender and one cook, and not miss a script. So we're able to be very efficient, and very, very few brands can say that they be efficient at low volume and not waste as much as high volume, and be able to produce at high volume, right?
And I mean, that efficiency is how you're getting to 32% margin, being able to think about it from the perspective, right? Like same thing, super creative. When I used to be a chef, it was like, I want to make this dish and this. And then you look and you're like, all right, so we just have to start buying 33 new ingredients. And this is going to take 4 saute pans. And wait, this is a nightmare. What are we doing? And instead you really looked at it, kind of ripped it apart of like, how do we make sure that the menu is efficient? But then I love that you thought about it from the execution perspective, so that you can run with a leaner staff if you don't have a ton of like foot traffic coming through, but you're still making sure you can hit on all those pieces of service.
Yeah. And not generate waste when there's no guests. We all have downtimes. Right.
Right.
So,
and there's so much that goes into that. So I have to imagine by restaurant 4, like, does your line change? Does your setup change? Like, do you tweak the layout just to increase those efficiencies? We have tweaked it, but based on the locations, based on the deal of the locations. I mean, we've improved. We've put a little bit of some better equipment or some modern equipment, but the line, the setup, the flow has not changed at all. It's the same. And so at the beginning, you were talking about your other concepts, your bars, your clubs, right? And now you're transforming them into more restaurant focused, sort of an elevated version of the elevated street taco. What's causing you to do that? It's coming up a lot lately on the podcast. The decline in alcohol is a real thing. Everybody's seeing it. People are drinking less. This next generation is definitely not drinking at all, it seems like. Is that forcing your hand a little bit here?
No, we are noticing those decreases. It's not what's forcing our hand. What's forcing our hand right now is the World Cup, where the restaurant is located. Is kind of a place where people are going to be hanging out. It's right in between the fan zone and the stadium, and it's like a bar hopping area. So we would have a lot of traffic, and that's what's doing
Absolutely.
our decision. But we have seen the change, the incredibly sudden. And I don't think anyone predicted. Not even Nostradamus predicted. That this was going to happen, and it came so all of a sudden. I don't know where it came from, but yes, we're noticing that decrease.
Are you doing anything kind of to mitigate that? Like if people are drinking less, or you try to come up with other? You mentioned like the agua frescas. Like, are you doing other kind of give somebody something that's non-alcoholic but gets them excited for that drink itself? Yeah,
we're working on a small mocktail menu. The concept for La Calle, it's very fresh and very authentic. You will not find anything in La Calle that you wouldn't find on a street stand in Mexico City, right? So, you don't find a lot of mock mojitos, or what do we call them, in the taco stands. You find the real deal. So we're going to have a couple of options, like a zero beer and a zero, and mocktails, but that's not necessarily our focus. On La Diabla, on the turnaround La Diabla, we will be focusing more on mocktails.
And so Houston's you're having a good run. You just had the World Baseball Classic, which I'm sure was great for business, right? Mm-hmm. And now you've got the World Cup coming up. I mean, it's a very smart time to be flipping these. I mean, if you were only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, now you're going to be open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Lunch and dinner. I mean, I mean, why wouldn't you? Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Great idea.
For sure.
And I'm curious. So you were talking about GPT at the beginning of the call. It sounds like you're starting to work AI into your workflows. How is that helping you move the needle anywhere right now?
Absolutely. I mean, the time, you know what? It's also, it's very weird to me because it has helped us a lot with decision making, right? And right now that we're putting together the rebranding, we're feeding it everything that we take notes and talk about. We're feeding it, and it comes with such great suggestions. It's like having a board, helping business you out. Consultant. Yeah, a super business consultant in steroids, for sure. Yeah. So, it's like, for example, we were talking, it's going to be a very social place, and it caught saying, if you want a social place where we want to promote a lot of interaction between guests, right? That's something that we want to decide. And it told us, you know what? You better have tall tables, like bar hop tables, not short tables. I'm like, why? Okay, but why? Well, because when you're on a high top, it's easier to stand up and move around than if you're, or to talk to someone that's walking by, you're at the same level. You're not talking to someone, right? So, like, mind blown, but yeah, very true.
Cancel the table order.
Yes.
We're switching to high tops.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I love stuff like that. And we were talking a little while ago. You actually said you interact with all your guests in your restaurants, which I love, which is so important, right? We talked about this at the top of the show. It's about the love. And one of the things you always ask, though, is like, how did you find me? And you had somebody actually say ChatGPT recently, which blew my mind.
Two people blew my mind because when I first opened, and this trajectory is pretty interesting. When I first opened, it was Yelp. Yelp. Then it turned into Facebook check-ins. Then it turned into Instagram. Then it turned into Snapchat. Then it turned into a TikTok, right? And now it blew my mind that two people in the same week, said that they asked ChatGPT. So
where should I go get some tacos? Let me tell you, that's a great question. Let me tell you where.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So I went on ChatGPT and I asked, what do I need to do for you to recommend me? to recommend me more. And he gave us a few things like, ask people, people to ask ChatGPT. And if it doesn't, or if it mentions or whatever, if it doesn't mention La Calle, then tell them to go and say, oh, what about La Calle? What about La Calle? Oh, and it's like 5, 6, 7 things that it told us to do.
Love it.
But more people are going to be.
It's like the systems are like they're going off of all of the information that they've ingested, and now essentially you're kind of giving it another suggestion to be like, well, hey, what about this place?
Yeah.
And now you got ChatGPT recommending you to folks. I love it.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
What we're always trying to think about, you mentioned TikTok, and so we're always trying to think about those little TikToko type bites. And so I'm always curious, kind of like what for you is the one word you never want to hear during the rush?
We're out of. Oh man, that drives me nuts. And we have reduced it so much. The running managers running around the city looking for, transporting chicken is something I just cannot bear, because everything that goes behind that, and it's just bad news. So something that we've been able, and we're very methodical about the forecasting and about the order suggestion. And we've lowered the emergency, the payouts, the emergency purchases and the transfers, like you have no idea. We're so now people are not running around the restaurant, not running around the city looking for product when they're taking care of a guest.
And you attack that you actually have a GL code called emergency purchases, so you could track that
That's
spend,
right.
which I also thought was very clever.
That's right. That's right. It's called on my P&L. It's the first line on the food cost. It's the first line, and it's called non-approved transaction. Right. That's what we call it. Right. So when we first started coding stuff like that, we were like at 5%. Right now, we're at less than 1% on that number.
And so, you track everything. I'm curious, another little TikTok question for you. Where do you find restaurants lose the most money without realizing it?
I think waste. I think the two big ones, no secret, food waste and labor waste. Labor waste is big. It's people clocking in beforehand, clocking out, later than what they should. All of that is what creates, I think, the biggest expense. Down the line on the P&L, a lot of it, it's what it is. You can't control it that much.
Can't control it.
But there's also waste on those lines. I mean, there's also
portion. Yep.
Not only portion, but like on the subscriptions, right? Look at your subscriptions and realize how many subscriptions are not even stuff that you use, right? Or there's also a lot to pick on.
Book those to non-approved transactions as well.
Exactly.
I didn't say you could sign up for Spotify.
Yeah.
So this is obviously our year of Transform. We're doing our big event in Scottsdale in November. How are you transforming your business this year? What's on the horizon for La Calle? What's coming up?
I think the biggest one we just completed. We just launched our franchise model. We started selling franchises. We're trying to focus on Houston. We would be able to open the Houston market, even though we're here. San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin, right? But if something comes up in other places, we're open. But we're trying to start there, right? Okay. And so we're very excited. It's the way that I think we're going to be able to grow the most and the quickest, more than anything. We need to get those line of tacos across the country quicker, and we won't do it with
we got to get to Mexico City. Let's go.
With corporate restaurants, I don't think we'll do it that quickly.
And of course, as you franchise, you will mandate Restaurant 365 to all of your franchisees.
Yeah, I will. We're
Only because it will help them make more money.
Of course.
Exactly. The simple answer.
You know what? Yes, but also because it will allow, the biggest nightmare every franchisor has is, the products getting, people going wild and getting products and selling things. So going rogue. So that will help us kind of control that issue. Which
keep the consistency, keep the quality. That's another one of those, I think, things people don't think about long term, like in terms of scalability.
Yeah.
How do we keep the brand? How do we keep your DNA, your 19-year-old vision, your brand DNA? How does that stay intact?
Yeah. We're mandating. We use Toast, so we're mandating Toast and 365. Okay. So that will allow us a lot of control in that sense.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first. If you want to get in early, the franchise doors are open.
Absolutely.
Get in on the ground floor. Lock down one of those states now.
Yeah.
So we like to end with our usual hot take, Ramon, on the industry. Something you love, something you hate about hospitality, something you want to see come back or go away. What is your hot take these days?
My hot take is always keep on the basics, right? Always remember the basics. Always. I've worked for so many companies. There's always adversity. The freeze, the flood, pandemic. There's always, the 2008, the house market. There's always something. And every time something like that happens, the companies I've worked for, the big plan is get back to the basics. So my take is don't get out of the basics to begin with. Right? Stay.
You don't have to
basics.
get back to basics if you never left.
You never leave them. Yeah. And it's very hard. Okay. It's very hard. It's not easy.
I love it. It's about keeping it simple. It's about love, and it's about your brand DNA. Learned a lot today. Ramon, thank you so much for joining us and for all that you do to support Restaurant 365. We appreciate your support and your partnership. And you can find Ramon on LinkedIn and La Calle locations across Houston, with more coming soon, and franchise opportunities are available today. And you can also find them on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the socials. He's got somebody running those for him now. He's not doing it himself. He is ready to move on to bigger.
He's growing a taco empire. He doesn't have time to manage all the socials.
That's right.
Absolutely.
But speaking of the socials, we want to make sure we thank you all for joining us. We hope you have a great shift, a great day, a great quarter, wherever you and your restaurant may be. And don't forget, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean, and you might as well listen to the podcast while you're doing it. So make sure you like and subscribe everywhere. We know it's not a small ask, but we definitely appreciate it. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much everywhere that you listen. And you can also follow us across all social media on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And you can always visit us at restaurant365.com. Ramon, thank you so much for hopping on and letting us taco about it.
I'm hungry. Let's get some tacos.
Well, it's a lot of fun, guys. Thank you.